Welcome back to MediaScience Myth Busting. I'm your host, Philip Lomax, joined by Dr. Dwayne Varan. On this episode, we'll be discussing the promise of addressable TV. Addressability has existed on digital platforms for many years, but now with the adoption of connected television, there's more and more opportunities to serve ads to individuals that make sense to watch those ads. As an example, dog food to dog owners or cat food to cat owners. So I'm joined by Dr. Dwayne Varan to discuss addressable TV advertising. So Dwayne, does addressable TV advertising work?
Well, addressable TV advertising has long been a dream. It's been the Holy Grail of advertising for a long time. You know, the power of the creative storytelling of television combined with the targeting, that's associated with the internet. This idea that you could bring these two worlds together. I mean, this was something that, advertisers really dreamed about for a long time. And we've been doing this research for over 15 years, exploring exactly how addressability works, what it can do, what it can't do. Now, there are a lot of things that you could potentially do with addressability, but where people have really focused this energy has really been on the idea that you floated. We call that, category-based addressability, which is delivering the brand to the people who are in market for the brand. Dog food for dog owners, cat food for cat owners, like you were saying. Generally, though, our research says that this is not the magical bullet that everybody thinks it is. In fact, you can think about it working on two different levels. On one level, it's about efficiency. If you eliminate people who are out of market, who have no likelihood of buying your product, then you're getting a more efficient media buy. And this is not an effect question. This is not a question that you need a media science to test. It's pure media math. You just have to look at what the cost is of buying the addressable, what the cost is of buying the general ad, and looking and seeing how many people there are in your target, and does it really make sense to pay more for the addressability, or are you actually getting better efficiency just by buying, the mass? So this is kind of like an efficiency that I'm getting rid of waste, essentially. Now, of course, Byron Sharp and the Ehrenberg Bass Institute would argue that even efficiency is actually a flawed paradigm, because generally you're trying to reach the people who are in market for your product, but actually your growth comes from the people who are not currently your customers. And so if you're targeting for your customers, you're missing your real growth opportunity. But all of that is around eliminating waste. And at the end of the day, that's a pure media math problem. But the second reason why people think addressability is that holy grail is because they say that ads that are addressable are going to be more effective. In other words, if you have a dog, that ad is going to be more effective when it communicates with you. And this is something that we have tested extensively, and this is something we have found no evidence for. In fact, to date, we have tested this idea with over 30 categories, and there's only one category where we saw a real positive effect in terms of improving the impact of an ad, and that was for allergy medications. If you suffer from allergy medications, when an allergy ad comes on TV, you react very differently to everybody else. And when I talk about deep measurement, Philip, I'm talking not only survey metrics, I'm also talking about the neurometric measures. We actually look at how people experience the ad, and we see no evidence that the dog owner experiences the ad any different to the non-dog owner. So the evidence that we have really draws this whole idea of this holy grail into question.
But Dr. Varan, why doesn't it work?
Well, there are a number of issues here. One is that people's motivation for watching television is not rational. It's not being driven by, oh, where am I going to get my dog food today, right? Even though people may not be in market for a product, they enter into the commercial as if they were in market. They experience the ad as if they were the target audience. It's far more important to deliver on the creative elements of the ad than, if you will, effective targeting of that ad. In other words, how the story is told, whether it moves you, whether it's funny, those things are much more important. That's the value that the audience is really looking for when they're watching an ad. And that's what ultimately really impacts them far more than that. In fact, in our research, we show that ad creative delivers, when we do the regression analysis, delivers about 60% of the effect of the ad. But the relevance, which is this category relevance that we're talking about, only accounts for about 10% of the effect of the ad.
Wow.
And if you think about that, the implications are really stark, because if you're a brand that is today producing a $500,000 ad, and it's a great ad, let's say that it's a fantastic ad and you spent $500,000 on it, now you say to yourself, you know what, instead of spending $500,000 on that great ad, I'm now going to spend $50,000 on 10 highly targeted ads. Well, what are your ads going to look like? You have 10 $50,000 ads. And so you've compromised ad creative for the sake of your targeting. But now you end up with 10 ads that look like they're local ads rather than, like high brand equity ads. And so in our data, we would say that's a losing proposition. You've come out worse rather than being better off by having done that.
Because creative matters so much in this
Because
equation.
creative is much more important than the category relevance. Mm-hmm. And the other thing is that in our research, what we have also found is that people are relatively stable when it comes to what they're not in market for. But it turns out they're very fickle when it comes to what they are in market for. So you know what you don't like, but you don't know what you like. And it's a moving target. In fact, we find that within 30 days, people have moved on from whatever they were in market for, about half of what they were in market for. So if you look at this chart here, it's a little bit complex to kind of understand, but what you're looking at is within a 30-day period, these three different colors represent, the first one with the bars represent people were not in market for the product. And you see that in 30 days, there's very high stability. Almost 90% of them are still not in market for it. And then there's things that they're in market for and things that they perceive as being relevant for them. And again, these are both very strong moving targets. Within a month, 50% of it has changed. And the issue is that targeting data tends to be very old data. And so if the targeting data is older than 30 days, it's too old. In fact, it needs to be much less than 30 days. And targeting data is usually 5 years old or even longer sometimes. And you have a high amount of inaccuracy in that targeting data. And so this mismatch between what people are really in market for and what they're getting served, that's another problem as well. So these are the kinds of issues that we're facing with category-based addressability.
So Dr. Varan, are there things that we can do to make addressable television more effective?
Absolutely. There are so many things we could be doing that would be so much more powerful than category-based addressability. So for example, we did a study where we presented consumers with 42 different ad formats. And we got them to score those. And then we basically ranked them on the basis of their response. And we did the same thing with media buyers. So which of these would be ad formats that you'd be interested in buying for your clients? And what we discovered was the single most popular idea with both consumers and with media buyers was frequency capping. Don't show me this ad again on my TV. I've seen this ad too many times. Advertisers love that because they're not wasting money. They've hit their optimal exposure and they're not wasting with wasted exposures. And viewers love that because they don't want to see the same ad over and over again. So that's an example of one thing you could do, frequency cap. Another example is that oftentimes what we should do is try to use the addressability not at the category level, but at the creative level in terms of matching what the viewer's journey is about, matching the emotional states associated with the viewer at that point in time. There was a great study that was done by ESPN that we facilitated for ESPN, where what we did was we took data on the viewer's team fandom and we superimposed that basically over this addressable engine so that we could deliver ads to people based on whether their team was winning or losing. And so they got one version of the ad, which was very celebratory if their team was winning. They got one that was much more empathic and sensitive if the team was losing. And that was a great example where the results were very effective. And then, of course, the other thing is that you can have, even if you're going to do something like category-based addressability, you need to make sure that the data is fresh. So we had a study where we took people's internet activity and we superimposed that over the addressability so that people were getting ads based on activity that day. And that was also a really powerful model. But of course, try to figure out how to support that in terms of, the supply chain would be a little bit challenging. So 100% you're right. The problem is not addressability, it's what we're doing with addressability. We're being way too simplistic, and the propositions that we brought to market are really not the best propositions.
But Dwayne, what about on a personal level? You're an audience member yourself. What's your experience with addressable TV advertising today? What do you like? What do you dislike? How do we make this whole equation better?
I hate it. As a viewer, I hate it. Unfortunately, I am now in the 54 plus category. And what that means is that I don't get to see the ads that you get to see. My ads are all pharmaceuticals, insurance, lawyers. They're all ads for old people, and they're not good. I mean, those ads that are the young people ads where people are having fun, I don't get any of that on my TV anymore. So I think if you're 54 plus, addressability is pretty horrible as a proposition. And there are other problems. For some reason, somewhere, I've been flagged as being Hispanic. I have no idea how that's happened, but I get a lot of ads in Spanish. I'm like, why are you giving me ads in Spanish? I don't speak Spanish. And then the other thing is, the inventory associated with a lot of these addressable engines is really very low. And so what that means is I get the same ads over and over and over and over and over again. It's a horrible experience. So I have not seen anything about the addressable experience as a viewer that I would say has been anything positive. It's all been a pretty horrible experience.
I so agree with you, Dwayne. For some reason, I'm constantly served ads for farming equipment. I wish that there was a way, as a savvy consumer, that I could communicate with these addressable advertising companies so that I could share the preferences that I have. But I certainly agree with you and Professor Byron Sharp in that I'd like to still be made aware of what's available, because people don't know what they want until they know what they can have. And they don't know what they can have until they know what's available.
Wow, that's really profound, Philip. You're absolutely right. In fact, we did a study where we tested exactly that model, where people got to make choices around their own addressable profile, and it was far more effective than the kind of category-based stuff that we're doing today. So you're absolutely right. That's a great model.
Well, you heard it here first. The myth of addressable TV advertising, at least at a category base.
At a category level.
Is it the Holy Grail of advertising? No, it's not. Myth busted. Join us again on our next episode as Dr. Dwayne Varan and I, Philip Lomax, continue to myth bust across the entire media universe.